Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope y'all had a wonderful day today. We're gonna be checking out this video here. It's from Warren Smith, and man, I hope he got his name right. If not, I'm sorry, yo. It's I guess it's a debate here. It's the moment that Tim Pool discovered why Andrew Wilson is unstoppable. I am familiar with both these people. Y'all might recognize them when y'all see them, but yeah, let's get off into this, man. If y'all wouldn't mind, hit the like button, subscribe. It's free.
Tim doesn't seem to really know what hit him here.
You have no right to do shit except whatever you can
That's kind of blurry.
enforce.
Right. That would explain it.
Tim doesn't seem to really know what hit him here.
You have no right to do shit except whatever you can enforce.
Right.
Your mechanism is
That's true.
force, and the mechanism against you is force.
And so
all rights are as force.
you're talking about government protections, not rights.
No, I'm talking about rights. What is a right?
Wait, what is?
Force, and the mechanism against you is force.
And so
all rights are as force.
you're talking about government protections, not rights.
No, I'm talking about rights. What is a right?
A right is how the government protects us, but that's not. Okay, I'm gonna let that go because I don't think that's what he's trying to say. You're only in control of what you're in control of.
Has not thought this through in this way before, because most people don't go to this level. When you encounter someone who has,
The reality is, rights are recognized as things that we can and must do to survive and maximize
I
potential.
think rights are force, and I think that
You think rights are
Government-
force?
Government
Yeah, rights are
protections
force.
What do you mean
are
rights
force.
are,
You're-
rights are
explain.
You're
force?
talking.
wait a minute, what? But hang on a sec.
right to me is an entitlement absent duty. That's a right. Okay, you're entitled to it, but you have no duty.
What does that mean?
Let's let him repeat that, yo.
Force?
Government
Yeah, rights are force.
protections.
What do you
are
mean
force.
rights are
You're
rights are
explain.
You're
force?
talking.
Wait a minute, what? But hang on a sec.
Right to me is an entitlement absent duty. That's a right. Okay, you're entitled
is.
to it, but you have no duty.
What does that mean?
If you have a right to own a gun, do you have a duty to own a gun?
What do you have a duty to speak?
No, you don't
start
have a
with the
duty
First
to
Amendment.
speak.
If you have a right
No.
to vote, do you have a duty
So
to
you-
vote? The
so
answer
right,
is
so
no.
it'd be an
That's
entitlement.
your argument.
It's an entitlement
But
absent a duty.
The line is drawn on two layers by the
I ain't gonna lie, I ain't think about it like that either, but I'm not sure where he's going with that angle. But it is logical in what he's saying, though.
laws of physics and the legal framework.
but you can speak.
Yeah, you can.
And so
Until you
the-
can't.
The question.
Until somebody stops you with force.
You only have a right if you can defend it against force.
Oh, that's what he meant. Cause like, say if somebody's talking and you punch them in their face, force.
Founding fathers made it clear that we've created this framework, but it's up to you to be able to protect it and keep it.
So you're talking about government restrictions are made up by
No,
us as a people.
Just people can adhere to your rights without any form of government. If you're walking down the street and you speak, and a guy turns around and smacks you in the mouth and breaks your jaw, right? He has now used force.
He just used that example.
Against whatever this right you think you have to speak.
We do walk
It's
around
true.
today as though this is all it's just the way it is and nothing can challenge it, but it will be challenged at some point.
so
is it?
We do, at least here in the United States, we live so much on a trust. I don't know how else to say that, but we live on a lot of trust.
it is an intrinsic moral function
Well, okay,
or
intrinsic meaning what?
meanings. If again, I'll try to explain. If you're born and you live in the middle of the woods, there are things you can do. You can hunt for food. You can defend yourself. You can speak freely.
But because you can do something doesn't mean you have the right to do it.
Yeah, but what makes it an intrinsic right to be able to do? Like, where does it?
That sounds like an ability to do something, not. You know what I mean? Like, that's a product of your environment.
This idea come from other than you axiomatically kind of just
Evolution?
say, you say because I can do something, I have the right to do something?
It's part of a evolutionary biological structure
So
that
if I-
resulted in the survival of humanity.
So if I,
Okay, then why do other countries not reflect that evolutionary biological structure with the same rights.
So if I like grab a spear and I can
Touche.
stab somebody with it, I have a right to.
The legal framework is what prevents you from being able to stab the person with the spear.
No,
No,
that's
Why?
that's attacking
different.
somebody. That's
Yeah,
violating.
but other
that's a
than
whole
an
bunch-
axiom of you shouldn't do that because I just don't feel like you should, what makes it intrinsic that I don't do that?
that you don't go and kill another person.
Yeah.
So the way I view rights would be things that, and again, there's a debate over what rights are.
Yeah, let's start with that. What are they?
I genuinely think Tim has never been challenged on this idea before.
No. So there.
What is a right? Huh. I've never even been asked that before. I guess my answer would be a right is just it's something that the government can't stop you from doing. Until they decide to.
It's honestly difficult to define,
Yeah.
but it is certain moral structures or.
I would
things
say
that are-
axioms. Would you agree with that? Just an axiom. So, like, you have inalienable rights from God according to the Constitution. This is an axiomatic principle. It means this is our like philosophical
Hey, if y'all still here, make sure you hit the like, subscribe. And what is axiom? He lost me on that one.
starting point. Is that we have these.
I would put it as things that were required or greatly beneficial to the survival of an individual that we greatly benefit.
I agree.
Right,
I agree. We
it's-
benefit. I just don't know
Ain't that the Ten Commandments?
what makes them intrinsic or like you're born with them or something like this, other than we just kind of agree to it.
So I think the restrictions we kind of agree to. And some people might view some things as rights and other things not as rights.
I think Tim is using the word rights too loosely, and that's why he's
I
getting
agree.
trapped.
Yeah, but
I agree
when
with
I'm asking
Warren
you
on
this
that.
question, right? I'm asking the foundation from which you say I have the right to speak or write.
We
or
need to be able to in
things like
order to
this.
survive.
So now everything that you need to do in order to survive, you now have a right to it.
No, we don't need it to. Our rights are to keep a civilized society based on a trust. My opinion.
Have to
Saying
eat.
words.
You have
Speech
a
is-
right to eat.
Yes, 100%.
Really? You have a right to do that?
Why do we have to then go pay for food?
I'm asking what makes
Ding.
them intrinsic. When you say I have a right to eat, okay?
If you don't, you'll die.
If you have no, if that guy has all the food over there, you no
Eating is not a right. Eating is a requirement.
longer have a
We
right
are
to
not
eat.
talking about your right to steal from others. If
Yeah,
you are
so you no
standing
longer
in
have
the
a right
woods
to
by
eat?
if you are standing in the woods by yourself, eat that mushroom.
Okay, got it. You can eat the mushroom.
Uh-huh.
But what makes it a right to eat that mushroom, and what makes it not a right for guy standing next to the mushroom to say,
Okay, we're
I have a
talking- you're talking
gun
about
and I
laws?
don't want
Okay,
you
wait,
to
hold
eat
on.
that mushroom?
You're now once again talking about laws and restrictions.
Yeah, okay, but my whole theory
No.
is that rights themselves.
I don't think he's talking about laws. He's talking about pure force of people that literally someone can make you not do something.
Are force.
This whole thing sparked off of just the claim that rights are bound by force.
And that's all they ever are. It's just your ability to use force to do thing you want to do.
I think you're just making
you
an
call that a
argument about-
right.
you're-
So there's a distinction between freedoms and rights.
if you're making an argument that someone should or should not be allowed to do something is an entirely human social construct.
I agree.
Right. I'm saying that the reason we have protections of rights is because we've determined certain things are required for the reasonable survival and expansion of humanity.
But why? Okay, but this makes no sense, right? So if
Certainly does.
if all right is
I don't know
to
how to-
you, Tim,
That kind of made a little sense. Unless I just misunderstood what he said.
is thing X, which is necessary for the survival of a man. In this case, blinking and breathing and eating. And
Floor
why
or in their
couldn't you
house.
extend that to literally everything? You need healthcare to survive. You need guns
You have
to
a right
survive.
to
You need
access-
a house to survive. You
So
need
once again-
everything to survive.
And I think Tim realized
Oh yeah, I see now what he meant. I think Warren's fixing to explain this, but he just opened a whole can of like Nah, he opened like a whole barrel of worms.
survive. You
So
need
once again-
everything to survive.
I think Tim realizes he has cornered himself here and he hasn't thought this through before.
I think we should move on, but I think the
Okay.
challenge is I don't know if you're unwilling to understand or what.
That's the classic interview thing right there. I think we need to go ahead and move on.
No, it's just the level of analysis is different. He's thinking
That's
of this through
different
the
from
lens of
Tim. I wouldn't
epistemology.
expect him to do stuff
You have
like
no
that.
right to force a doctor to perform surgery on you, but you certainly have a right to ask him for it.
Those are just assertions.
You have the freedom to ask him for it.
Like you just assert these things as though they have a grounding epistemic foundation from which you can make the assertion. Based on where do you make the assertion that you're not allowed to do X other than because Tim Pool's preference is that you don't?
Epistemology is where does the thinking come from at the root level?
I think that you can say that everyone has these rights, and it's a function of whether or not their government allows the rights to be recognized.
That's the contention. When you
So-
say, I think everybody has these rights.
Yeah, that is my belief.
Yeah, it's a belief.
It's a belief. It's a belief. It's that trust stuff.
You say, I think everybody has these rights.
Yeah, that is my belief.
Yeah, it's a belief
Yeah.
based on.
They're going to try and counter this by claiming, well, Andrew, you're saying that might makes right.
I feel
You're
like
saying might makes right, which is a
well, it's
perspective.
beyond that. I think you're making
It
a
makes.
post.
Oh. I think every human being on this planet knows that the strongest people will always be the ones to survive. The ones willing to commit the atrocities, the do what has to be done no matter how evil.
Makes right.
Feel
You're
like
saying might makes right, which is a
well, it's
perspective.
beyond that. I think you're making
It
a
makes.
postmodernist argument for why you should be allowed to do things that other people don't want you to do.
It gets really interesting when Tim Pool
Whoa, that's exactly what a right's for. Sorry for the pause, like the silence, but like that's exactly what the bills are for, or our rights are for. The Bill of Rights, that's what it's for. It's so someone else cannot stop us.
tries to accuse Andrew Wilson of postmodernism.
I think you're making
It
a
makes.
postmodernist argument for why you should be allowed to do things that other people don't want you to do.
I think you. Well, no, I think the opposite is true.
I'm making
I would use a justification of God.
Some people jump at the mention of the word God, but you can
What do
switch
you
out the
mean?
word God with fabric of reality, which allows the laws of logic to exist.
And I would appeal to something which is unchanging and an unchanging standard for moral justifications for oughts.
And you could disagree with that, but you have to anchor it to something. Where does it come from?
I
These would
think you're
be-
doing deconstructivist reasoning to argue why.
This is just basic philosophy. It has nothing to do with deconstruction or postmodernism. Basic philosophy, you have to have a justification for a position.
This is what happens when you treat thinking as though it is
I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I just got lost as hell.
And I would appeal to something which is unchanging and an unchanging standard for moral justifications for oughts.
and you could disagree with that, but you have to anchor it to something. Where does it come from?
I
These would
think you're
be-
doing deconstructivist reasoning to argue why.
This is just basic philosophy. It has nothing to do with deconstruction or postmodernism. Basic philosophy, you have to have a justification for a position.
This is what happens when you treat thinking as
Yeah.
though it is interconnected at the same level as the laws of physics.
So you haven't demonstrated why the axiom
Thank you, Warren. He kind of helped me understand what he was talking about.
Level as the laws of physics.
So you haven't demonstrated why the axiom or the starting point, we start with rights, Andrew. You haven't demonstrated why we do other than
You die.
because I observe that if we don't act in this way, you expire. But it's like, okay, but why is that even bad? Like, why is that even a bad thing?
Why is it bad that humans cease to exist?
Yeah, why would that even be a bad thing from the worldview of rights?
And many people stop right there at that level because it seems
Oh,
so
wow.
obvious.
Like, oh, okay.
Wow. Never thought about that. Oh.
Like, why is that even a bad thing?
Why is it bad that humans cease to exist?
Yeah, why would that even be a bad thing from the worldview of rights?
And many people stop right there at that level because it seems so obvious.
Like, oh, okay, if you don't have this right, you die. But you haven't justified why that's even a bad thing.
Because humans exist through a pattern of evolution towards, or creation, whichever you decide, to be fruitful.
Dinosaurs becoming extinct, why is that worse than human beings becoming extinct. Do you see where he's going with this?
Either from an
Agreed.
evolutionary standpoint, humans developed to inherit certain requirements to function efficiently, and when these things are curtailed, we see
Actually, humans evolved to dominate the world. And if you want to be completely honest, our evolution of doing that is probably one of the pitfalls.
He's becoming extinct. Do you see where he's going with this?
either from an evolutionary standpoint, humans developed to inherit certain requirements to function efficiently, and when these things are curtailed, we see inefficiency and collapse, disease and chaos.
This is circular. So you
How?
go, okay, we need to bear fruit and multiply. Why? Well, because then we can exist.
'Cause God
Why do
said
we
so.
need to exist? Because then we can bear fruit and multiply. Okay, but why? Because then we can
Okay,
exist.
you're-
So now Tim's bringing in religious
Oh.
worldview.
Do you justify rights as coming from God?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, then we're fine there.
This is where he's got him.
As we get to the heart of it, then, right here, where we come to this agreement, where I reject this, is that I think all the things you just stated are duties. They're duties, they're the opposite of rights. You have a
Oh.
duty.
I just think we're having a semantic argument.
Well, but semantics are super important so
It
we don't speak
is.
past each other. So when I say a duty, it's an obligation to do a thing based on the fact that you're commanded to, in this case by God. A right, I would say, is an entitlement absent duty. So if that's the case, what you're listing out is like God is giving us these duties to do. I'm not sure what rights he's giving you.
Because it is critically thinking to the most basic.
I have never thought about it like that, but he's right. Because it does apply. Just think about it. If you think it's if us being here is nothing more than just a test to see if we can stay righteous, that would be a duty, not a right. And honestly, God never gave us a duty. He just told us what not to do. Oh, wow. Yeah. That was a good one. That was a good one. Hey, Warren Smith. This video and his everything will be linked out in the description. You got to check this cat out. This dude is freaking amazing. His outlook on things are just, it'll blow your mind. It'll help you understand stuff. Man, he's awesome. Y'all make sure y'all go check him out. And if you wouldn't mind, if y'all enjoyed it, please hit the like button here. Subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. It's free. Hey, man, you can always undo it later. But make sure you check out Warren, though. And, hey, y'all, much love and respect. I will catch y'all later.